Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Legal 500 webinar sponsored by AUV, Chile, the go-to destination for international fintech startups. My name is Joe Boswell. I am head of the Legal 500's GC Powerlist series, which you may have heard of, and I'll be introducing today's session. We are taking a deep dive into Chile's fintech scene today. Over the next 60 minutes, our expert panel is going to evaluate Chile as a destination for financial technology investment, and also evaluate whether it is Latin America's preeminent fintech hub. Before we get started, I'd like to quickly remind the audience that the opinions expressed are those of the individuals only and do not necessarily reflect those of the organizations they're a part of. And now I will spend a couple of minutes introducing our fantastic panelists. Jose Antonio is one of the leaders at CMF, a public institution dedicated to safeguarding the correct functioning, development and stability of the Chilean financial market. He joined the Commission in 2014 as Securities Prosecutor of the former Superintendency of Securities and Insurance, and then headed the CMF's legal area starting in 2017. He held this position until being appointed as the institution's General Legal Director in March 2021. Consuelo McKenna is a partner and leads the corporate area at AUV. She has extensive experience in fintech, banking, and financial regulation, as well as in corporate financial regulation and securities market matters. Matias Fontesia is regional manager at dLocal, a global payments platform that enables merchants to reach billions of emerging market consumers in 30 countries in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. dLocal is the first unicorn company in Uruguay, where it was born. Prior to dLocal, he worked in the administration and management of companies such as Transbank, FASA, and Nielsen. Matthias Apostel is a partner at AUV and leader of the venture capital and fintech practices. His work includes assisting entrepreneurs with corporate restructuring for financing and with the negotiation of financing rounds and exits. He is also experienced in advising investment funds and has a range of clients throughout Latin America, the United States, and Europe. And I'd now like to throw over to Matthias Apostel to begin the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for attending this webinar. I want to thank the audience and the speakers, especially to Jose Antonio and Matias for attending. It's a great honor for us that you decided to attend. And I wanted to start this webinar welcoming Consuelo McKenna as a partner. She was recently appointed as a partner by us to our firm. So congrats, Consuelo, on that. And I wanted to speak a little bit about our expertise in fintech. As everyone knows, we're a young law firm, and we don't have we've been specializing from day one in tech and fintech. It's a new market for everyone. We didn't have fintech companies 10, 15 years ago as we know them now, and so it's a new world. It's a new regulation, and we're doing the regulation as we're speaking. So. I wanted to welcome all, and we're not going to have that much time to talk deeply on regulation for international fintechs that want to approach Chile, but this is a really good first step for that. So to all companies, to all general counsels of fintech companies that would like to approach Chile, I welcome you to take a look at our country. Chile is a very interesting place and will continue being in the next years, and that's a little bit. I let Consuelo begin in the presentation of the speakers. Consuelo.
Well, thank you, Matias, and welcome everybody. As a recently named partner of the firm, I am very glad to have the opportunity to meet you all and speak a little bit about Chile and the current situation. It has been development in the financial institution environment, startups, well, and especially fintechs. As you may know, Latin America is a region with very important potential for technology development, as we can see the success in many companies have achieved in Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, to name a few. And well, Chile is not left behind. And a key issue, I think, for this is the fact that the Chilean authority, since the government, the central bank, the Securities Market Commission, and all the regulatory authorities are very involved in the fintech environment development, and they have the purpose of turning the country into a fintech hub so we can attract investors worldwide. In Chile, we have over 180 fintech companies, and the growth of last year was almost 40% for 1 year. That's a lot. It's a very, very important increase. And we have some prominent Chilean fintechs such as Buda, Destacame, Brota, Fintual, Ubank. But also we have companies from abroad that have incorporated in Chile successfully, like one of our guests today is dLocal, the first unicorn of Uruguay. Well, another advantage of Chile is that we have several treaties to avoid double taxation with a lot of countries. To name a few, we have Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico, Paraguay, Peru, and in Europe, we have the UK, Spain, Belgium, Portugal, Switzerland. We also have Canada. And this makes Chile more interesting for foreign investors. And on the other hand, it encourages Chileans to invest in other countries. But the only thing that has held us back for such tasks, for becoming this financial technological hub, was the absence of a specific regulation. But at the beginning of September, the government sent a bill for the fintech law. And in 3 months, the Chamber of Deputies, the Cámara de Diputados, approved that bill and passed it to the Senate. So we hope that within a week, we may have finally a fintech law in Chile. And well, the important thing of this bill is that it encompasses 4 major topics, which are financial inclusion and innovation, competition promotion among the parties of this field, client protection of financial products and services, and prevention of money laundering and financial terrorism, PLATCO. Well, that is why the role of the Securities Market Commission will be tremendously relevant because of its role as supervising and regulatory authority. But I will let Jose Antonio to go deeper in this issue. I would like to mention also a problem that we have had in this environment development, that we have several concepts that although we use it daily, they are not recognized under current legislation. So this bill seeks to remedy this lack of legislation, including the legal definition of, for example, digital financing assets, cryptocurrency, crowdfunding platforms, among others. And it also pretends to adequate the role of the investor advisors and to establish a regulatory framework for the following services: crowdfunding and crowdlending platforms, alternative system for the transactions and financial instruments such as derivative invoices and crypto assets exchange, order routers and financial instrument intermediaries, custodians of financial instruments, and the credit and investment advisors. And finally, these bills include the principles to develop the system of open banking, which will allow the clients to share their financial information among different vendors and providers of these services. I would like to mention also that a big advantage, a very positive thing about this bill is that it settles the general guidelines to regulate financial technology, but it does not impose like rigid rules that must be compelled equally for every actor in this environment. And it is why the role of the Securities and Market Commission is fundamental, because it will dictate specific regulation for the fintech providers regarding its reality. Well, finally, I would like to shortly refer to the soft landing of foreign companies in Chile. This process is very fast, very simple. Either if you are a physical person or you are a company from abroad that wishes to establish in Chile, the first thing you need to do is to obtain an ID number, a tax ID number for foreign investors. You do the filing online with the Chilean Internal Revenue Services. They give you in about 1 or 2 days after you do the filing your tax ID number. After that, you incorporate the company, the drafting of the bylaws and the incorporation of the company. It takes about a week. And after that, you finally get your tax ID number for the company. Once you get your ID, you can start operating in Chile immediately, unless, and after the fintech law is approved, your purpose is to develop one of the activities that are regulated under this fintech law, in which case you will need to register before the Securities Market Commission and obtain its authorization. And well, I think that's it. I mentioned shortly what the bill is, what its purpose, and how you can incorporate and soft line in Chile. And now I would like to welcome and thank Jose Antonio Gaspar, a key person in this new role of the Securities Market Commission. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, Consuelo, and also on behalf of the Financial Market Commission, we would like to thank you also to Legal 500 and to Aparcel Uriarte Basalo for this opportunity to share a little bit about our role as Financial Market Commission in this context, and also what we expect and how we are preparing for this new bill about this fintech bill of law. As Consuelo explained, we are the regulator. We are the local regulator, the financial market regulator. The Commission right now. Before this is a relatively new institution in Chile, the Financial Market Commission. We were incorporated in 2018, almost 4 years ago. And previously, we had the Superintendencia de Valores y Seguros, the Securities and Insurance Superintendency, and also a bank superintendency. Right now, we are together in just one institution, and we are in charge of the supervision of almost 75% of the financial market in Chile. I mean, the bank industry, the insurance industry, and also the securities market industry. We are in charge of this supervision as an integrated regulator here in Chile. So we have, as you can imagine, around 7,000 of entities under our supervision, and also supervising, as I mentioned, around approx 75% of the asset of the financial market in Chile. In this regard, as an integrated regulator, we have certain purposes. We specifically established set forth in our law that are mainly the supervision of the stability of the financial system, and also to supervise the conduct of the entities under our supervision, but also to encourage another purpose is the development of the financial market. Three big purposes that we have, and that we have specifically expressly set forth in our law. So in this regard, with these three purposes, conduct, stability, and development of the market, we exercise our powers, the powers that are established by our law. Mainly, as Consuelo said, regulatory. So we have the power to establish rules, general rules for the entities our supervision. And we have a detailed process when we set for regulation. The Congress, as you can imagine in Chile, established the general law that as this fintech law, but also because of our structure, we had the power to set forth general rules to complement and to specific the necessary regulation for our market, the markets that are under our supervision. And in this regard, we have a detailed process in our law to set forth these rules. We had to propose the draft of the rules that we set for to the market, and to receive comments about that, and also include a report of the impact, of the regulatory impact of those rules. And so from this opportunity, I invite to all of you if this bill of law is approved by the Congress, and we will be publishing the draft of the complementary rules, to please come to the Commission with any comment that you will have to these rules that we had to set forth. We had to set forth to complement the fintech law. Because all the comments are reviewed by the Commission and very helpful to set for to establish the complement rules for the fintech law. The regulation. Also, we supervise. We exercise the power to verify the fulfillment of the law and the rules applicable for these entities. That's a mandate, that's a power that we have. And if necessary, we can impose sanctions like fines if there is any breach, any misconduct about these entities. All of these powers and their procedures established by the law with the exercise of any rights that you may have in this process, and also under judicial review. So we had this process for the exercise of this power. In this regard, since we have these three powers, regulatory, supervision, and sanction, we were aware about the development of the fintech industry. As Consuelo said, there was a common analysis to see what happened with this development of the fintech industry in the last years, and to see if the current regulation was enough, was appropriate for the fintech industry and all the development that we have in Chile in the last years. And the conclusion was that the current regulation in securities market and another regulation applicable for similar industry was not appropriate for the fintech industry. On one side, we conclude that, for instance, for certain entities that you could say, okay, they are similar, or we can apply the regulation, for instance, for brokers, dealers, or securities. We had a securities market regulation designed for all model of business. I mean, for a model of business where focus in people working on those industries, not with algorithm, or not with the huge use of technology that you have in the fintech industry. And also, another topic of the current regulation was that many entities, many fintech entities were outside of the current regulation. And we have many requests from a fintech industry that to try to say, oh, I would like to be under the supervision of the former Securities and Insurance Superintendency, right now the Financial Market Commission, because it was very appropriate for the fintech industry, for many entities to say, okay, I am under the supervision of a local regulator. But under the current regulation, we had to say that it was not possible because they were not one of the entities that are under our current regulation. And it was bad, we see, for the fintech industry, and also for investors, for the clients of the fintech industry that were that they do not have the protection that could a regulator provide, and also not only because of the protection, but also because of what's a problem we see for also the fintech industry, because if there was one entity in the fintech industry that make any fraud, the reputational damages were not only for that entity, but also for many other entities of the fintech industry innocent of that fraud. So for those reasons, we were aware that we have an issue here in Chile about the regulation of the fintech industry, since it was not appropriate, the current regulation. And second, on the other hand, we also conclude with the review of the status of the regulation in Chile that the technology also have the similar, not the same, but similar risk as other industry in the financial market. For instance, topic like information. The information that a participant in the financial market has to fulfill the standard of be enough, be true, be on time, current and regular topics in financial market. Also, another relevant topic that it has to be regulated for the fintech industry, another industry, was the conflict of interest. To see how will reveal, how will treat any conflict of interest. Also, something that is so relevant are how this industry will be treating operational risk. Some topic that Consuelo already mentioned. And finally, solvency. What about the capital? What about the liquidity? What about the debts? What will happen with the solvency? We had to see sunstand regulation. Would be necessary? Would not be necessary? So topics that are so common in financial market, but also need a regulation in the fintech industry. So that's why the Financial Market Commission and also another entities of another regulators, I mean the central bank and the government, we were aware, we were working. There was some document that you can see in our website, like a white paper in 2 years ago when we raised with the help of the market about those topics, how if there was a necessity of the regulation and what will be the guidelines of the new regulation that were needed. We present a draft of the bill of law last year to the government to see, okay, these are the guidelines that we see since the work that we were doing, the studies. And right now, as Consuelo mentioned, we had this bill of law under discussion of the Congress, following many of the topics that you can see in the white paper of the Commission 2 years ago, and also in the draft of bill of law that we sent to the review of the government last year. What we expect with this bill of law, generally speaking, of course, to improve the growth of the fintech industry in Chile, because you will have a regulatory frame for the development of this activity, but also a protection for the client, protection for the investors to this industry. We have to balance both objectives, also the development of this industry, but also to set forth rules and to protect the clients for that is, as I mentioned, for the Financial Commission, we have both purposes, three purposes: the stability, the conduct, and the development of the market. So, as Consuelo explained, this bill of law will establish that these entities that will provide this service in the fintech industry will be under supervision of the CNF, will have to be licensed by the CMF, and also to but certain regulation and be supervised by the CNF, but with this level of proportionality of the requirements. The law has certain topics very interesting to say that it will have the law the highest standards for the industry, higher requirement, but the CMF will have the authority to lower those standards and with this regulation that we will have to provide, we will have to issue. And in this process, we will have, as I mentioned, under the we will provide the draft for the public, hoping to receive the comments before the issuance of those regulations. And also, so this is the regulatory model of the fintech industry, of the fintech law. And there are other topics that Consuelo explained. I mean, about the regulation of the stable coins, regulation of the open finance, and also other topics in the insurance industry that we can explain further with the question. And what we expect at the end of the day with this project, with this bill of law. We expect, of course, the development of the industry, of the fintech industry here in Chile. we expect also to rise rise the conduct standard of the industry, since they will have a regulatory frame to perform the activity, and also some prudent standard. I mean, the solvency, the adequate requirements, also in the operational risk, to avoid any concern or any problem for the industry when they will perform their activity. And with that, to expect to have new actors in Chile, we also had to prepare for that. We are the regulator, and we understand that there were concerns about, okay, but I will have to request the license with the regulator to provide activity. They will request me capital, they will request operational risk. Well, we are working on that to speed our process, to be prepared, to be together with the industry, to develop this industry in this new framework that we expect to have, as Consuelo explained, shortly by the Congress, and to have and to improve the fintech industry here in Chile. As Consuelo explained, we welcome you. We hope that you are interested in Chile, and to be and to be good for the market, for the financial market. Our conclusion was that the Chilean financial market needs this legal framework to have a very good fintech industry here in Chile.
Thank you very much, Jose. So now we'd like to move on to the startup side, or maybe not quite so much of a startup anymore, because dLocal's been very successful. But we're hoping to hear a little bit now from Matias Fontecilla about his company and fintech development in general in LATAM. So yeah, Matias, if you could expand on that, please.
Hi, can I share my screen, please? Or is it, can you?
Give me 1 sec. You should be able to share it now.
No, it's not working.
Was it coming up with a message saying unable to share, or it should be working now?
Open system preference.
If it's a file, you can send it through to me and I can share my screen.
Okay.
Which could work. Hang on.
Can you give me your email? Sorry about that.
Why don't we take a couple of questions now in the meantime? So we've got quite a lot from the floor, which is great. So thanks very much for those. First, and basically this is directed at everyone. What is they had a question here about an updated data protection law and what that means in terms of protecting citizens. So yeah, does anyone have any thoughts on that and how to make sure that civil liberties are protected in the light of new tech innovation?
I don't know. Well, probably Jose Antonio will add something after me. The problem we have now in Chile is that our data protection law is very, very old. The Congress has been discussing the new data protection since year. It hasn't passed the bill, but we need to improve that. We need to approach to the regulation that it's working in Europe. especially for the open banking, where the data protection will be very, very key in this point. If you're going to share your financial information among several financial providers, it's very sensitive information. And with the current law we have some weaknesses in there. So we really hope that with the new government, independently of which candidate wins, we can move forward to improving this data protection law. We are very, very far in a lot of things, very modern, but in data protection, we are far behind from our peers. I don't know if Jose Antonio would like to add something from the Commission's perspective.
Yeah, we are aware of that, and we also think that it's so relevant, as Consuelo said, to update the data protection Chilean law. There are certain topics, including this law, the open finance, that we have in this bill of law of the fintech that also will be under CMF regulation. But generally speaking, we have the same hope to continue with the Congress working in the improvement of the update, really, of the data protection Chilean law.
Okay.
Maybe we can take another question, or are we ready with the presentation? Because I saw that
still waiting on the presentation, but I had another question here, which is a pretty broad one. But why should people choose Chile over other markets in Latin America? What are some of its key attributes, key selling points?
Well, I previously referred to that in my presentation, but the good thing about Chile is that we are a very bancarized country. Although we need to improve in inclusion, a lot of part of the Chileans have access to financial products. We need to, in either case, educate, inform, adequate the policies, the products, the services they are offered. But we are a very bancarized country. We are very developed in technology. We have solid institutions. So that gives a lot of certainty to the investors. Plus, all the treaties I mentioned, avoiding double taxation may be very positive for other countries. And this is related with some of the questions that were made in the chat regarding the election this Sunday. If we think this may affect the fintech regulation, I don't think so. It passed very fast in the Chamber of Deputies. We don't expect any major issues in the Senate. So independently of which candidate wins, we believe that the fintech environment will be moving forward as expected, and there shouldn't be any major concerns regarding potential new investors.
If I complement, in the case of the local regulator that we are on behalf of the CMF, precisely, I mean, the creation of the Financial Market Commission 4 years ago has the purpose to establish a regulatory body with certain protection of the political cycle. I mean, we follow international standard for the how will be the commission. I think following the SEC of the United States. I mean, a group of people changing the usual structure of the regulators in Latin America under one that were many the regulatory structure of superintendents was of one people in charge and designated by the government and changing under the decision of the president of any time. Now we have an structure in Chile for the regulator that tried to be separated from the political cycle. So and to try to generate, and that's why also we have these powers to regulate also the Congress. If you see this project and last project about the financial market, that's a bill of law like the modernization of the banking sector 2 years ago, there was many, those law provides that many topics were complemented by regulation of this authority. Not because of the Congress, not because of there is any problem with the Congress, but mainly because of the speed and the technical information or technical topics that we had to follow with the industry about the regulation that is required for the activity. So those also could be interested topics about what will be the regulator that you have here in Chile for the current industry and also the fintech industry under this new law when the Congress approved it.
Thanks very much. We are ready now, Matthias. So if you're ready, I will start sharing my screen.
Yeah, I'm ready. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. These things happen. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, my name is Matias Fontesilla. I'm the regional country manager for Central America, the Caribbean, and Chile. I have been working in fintechs I had a fintech in Startup Chile 8 years ago. And then I went to the Transbank monopoly. It was the monopoly of credit card processors in Chile. I worked there for about 5 years, and now I've been working in the local for a couple of years. Can we move to the next slide, please? So what's the local? What's the opportunity and the challenge? I don't want to make this a sales pitch. I just want to make you guys understand what we do and how we do it and what we look for. Please move to the next slide. The problem that we address is that in Latin American countries, there are multiple local payment methods with rising fragmentations. In Chile, especially in Chile, we see that in the last years, multiple wallets have arisen, and so every wallet will have a payment method attached to it. That's one example. Plus the payment of cash in local currencies, plus credit cards, plus bank transfers, plus debit, credit, prepaid cards. That makes fragmentation of the payment ecosystem. In Chile, their penetration of credit cards is around 30%, and until last year or a few years ago, the other 70%, I'm talking big numbers, okay, couldn't pay or couldn't contract services like Netflix, Spotify, Google, and all what's happening with the new economy. So we are a bridge between these big tech companies and local payment methods. And that's what we do. And we allowed customers to pay in their local currency, in their local payment methods, to these big tech companies: Google, Amazon, Uber, Netflix, all those kind of companies. The thing for the merchants, we give them a soft landing in the countries, and the ability to process local currencies or local payment methods without having them to be present in each market. So they don't have to deal with in Chile. The good thing about Chile is that we have one law, on all the country. It's not a federal state, but in countries like Brazil, you have different taxes in each state for each kind of product. So the tax regulation in Chile is much more straightforward, as I can say. So, summing all, we give the ability, or we make possible to process in 36 countries in South America, Africa, and Asia, emerging markets, just emerging markets, without having a local entity for these big tech companies. Please move to the next slide. And so how do you win in emerging markets? By offering all local relevant payment methods. So if you can maximize reach, it means, like, for example, you can buy your Netflix subscription on a local pharmacy in Chile. So the person doesn't have to have a local credit card or a credit card to do that, as it was a few years ago. This boosts loyalty for the customers of our merchants and drives revenue. So we process the money, we process the transactions, but we also move the capitals of those transactions. We consolidate them. We convert the Chilean pesos to dollars or euros, and Argentinian pesos, reals in Brazil, etc. Consolidate that money and pay our merchants as a consolidated settlement. Please move to the next one. Next one, please. And I wanted to show this. These are the geographies that we have at the current state. As you can see, many difficult countries and emerging countries, from Bangladesh to Chile, going through Nigeria, South Africa, and the Philippines. I think this is very, very important for you to understand, like, how a tech company was able to scale to all these countries. And I wanted to explain not only why we're present in Chile, but why we're going to other countries. The first thing that we look in a country that we go is that there's a rule of law state. So the law has to be followed and have to exist. Also, there have to be a legal security, and it's very important free capital flows, or at least tools of free capital flows. For example, we are present in Argentina. Chile is much more free market than almost all of the other markets where we operate. Chile is one of the easiest market to move capitals, but in Argentina you can also find some tools to do so. So Netflix, if they want to collect money from Argentinian users, we have to be able to send that money, to convert it to the dollars and to send it abroad. But the most important thing that why we are in some countries and is because our merchant asked for it. When one of our big clients asked us if we could give them a tool in Bangladesh, we just said yes and went over there and hired a local law firm. I asked for a legal opinion of the market, asked for a tax legal opinion, and then for a compliance legal opinion, and then just move forward. In Chile, everything is much more easy. Besides those points that I mentioned below, because our merchant asked us for this to be in Chile, and that they have a good rule of law, legal security, free capital flows, and was requested by customers. Chile has some big strengths. They have the free market court. We don't see that in in many other countries. If free markets are being or like if you have any problem of free trade, you can go to the court. It has the National Economic Prosecutor Office or Fiscalía Nacional Económica in Chile. You don't see that in Mexico or well, you see it in Mexico, but you don't see that abroad in all the other countries. So the state of Chile is much more consolidated than to do business than most of other markets. But I wanted to also to establish that even that we go to other markets that don't comply with that. There are some markets that are in blacklist, like Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea, Iran, that we just cannot go there because they don't have what it was asked. But those are mostly exceptions. But I would say that the most important thing and the most different thing is it would be the price that you can charge or the price that the end users end paying because you operate in Chile with a stable coin and stable market comparing to Nigeria, for example, or to Argentina, our neighbors. The downside of the Chilean market, I would say, maybe this is for Jose Antonio, but I would say that the entities that have a local license to operate would have to have a more, like banks, especially banks, we have to have more obligations for free trade and to operate, like Consuelo mentioned it, by open banking and sharing security. Like if you have a state license, you should be able to, or you should be obligated to provide some services and not have a discretionary if you can or you cannot. Like a few years ago, the Consuelo, you also mentioned Buda and the cryptos market or crypto exchange in Chile, that they had some bank accounts closed. Well, I think and then they had to go to the court and they were open again, but it shouldn't be something that happens. So that discretion shouldn't exist. I don't know if you guys have some questions, or Consuelo, Matias, about our model. Jose Antonio.
No, I think we're okay. Well, by your experience being the first unicorn from Uruguay, you soft land in Chile, so you can give like faith that the process here in Chile is fast, is easy. It doesn't take a lot of time to incorporate in here and to start operating under the regulatory frame. Even though after the bill is approved, well, the rules are going to change. The role of the CMF will be key for the authorization of the operations for fintechs, but otherwise keeping fintechs on the side. The soft landing in Chile is fast, is easy, and every foreign company or person may establish in here without major issues.
Yes, absolutely. And we have to keep that. I think that like what happened in Argentina is that with the previous government in Argentina, they made this fast track to making new companies, and then that changed and they went back to an old system. So we have to keep what we have and move forward and improve things that we have, not And that has been a strength of Chile in the past, to keep, like Jose told us, beside the political variables, we have been able to keep a long distance strategy of moving forward, and we have to keep in that track. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and just if I can, just complementing the topic that Matthias raised about the process with the banks. I think our belief as Financial Market Commission is precisely that the necessity of the regulatory framework was clear a regulatory framework, because the fintech industry will have certain standards to fulfill to perform the activity, and not to say to avoid the discretion of the bank, but will be helpful for the review of the banks. The bank has to have, well, as a Financial Market Commission, we had to say that because we are, and we supervise also the banks, and also the financial market, the security market, but to perform the banks this role. That also is important, I think, as to be aware that in Chile also the financial bank is robust, among other reasons, because they make this review, and it will be, I think, it will be fast. It will be easier for the fintech industry to get the bank service because of this regulatory framework, to be under a registry, to be under supervision, to be and fulfill with these requirements of capital, of etc. Whatever all of we are already mentioned. I think it will be helpful for these cases that we have in the last year.
Yeah.
Antonio,
Sorry,
no,
Gonzalo.
please,
And it's important to understand that from my point of view, the regulators, and this is textbook, but the regulators always cannot regulate everything. Like, you can make the framework and you can draw the table, but you cannot tell how to play inside that table or at every level. And it's important, like, to understand that a startup or a fintech company that's starting, that's going to have the first 100 users, should have different regulations than, or shouldn't have any barriers, or to start experimenting with a product, looking for a product market fit, before they cannot have the same regulation of a startup or a company that has 100,000 customers. So it's important to navigate through the regulations and to get there. I believe Chile is doing a great job in that way. We have to keep moving forward in that direction.
Yeah. I want to grab the last thing you mentioned, and reading the questions several people made. This is for Jose Antonio, and it was something we discussed when we were planning this webinar. Is although Chile is a friendly investor place, we have rules, we have strict rules. The authorities are very focused on making investors, companies, and everybody comply with this. But we have some sort of flexibility to adequate the requirements for each company. Of course, you will not require the same, I believe, risk management policies for a bank to a fintech with 100 customers. And this is what I want to ask Jose Antonio, because some people already asked, is how is the CMF going to establish the requirements for the standards of corporate governance and risk management? I know we will probably have these general rules, the normas carácter general circulares, but if you can refer to these, Jose Antonio, it would be much appreciated.
Yeah. Okay. Generally speaking, because we will work as CMF with this rule when once the law is approved by the Congress, and we hope that will be very, very soon. But anyway, you will see the general guidelines that we have in the CMF about this regulation, that is the proportionality. to, as Consuelo said, we are focused. We will make difference. Specifically, as I mentioned before, the idea or the analysis of the necessity of this new law was, among other reasons, because the current regulation was not appropriate for the fintech industry, either because they were not under the supervision, or because if you applied the supervision, it was not appropriate because it was too high a standard, or not high, or even inappropriate. So if you see in the white paper, or in the project, in the original project, that is very similar to the current law that is under discussion of the Congress, the CMF is considering this proportionality between the services, and to also considering that the current regulation and the current standard for the traditional participant is not necessarily appropriate for this industry. We may have similar concerns, as I mentioned before: information, solvency, risk management, and we have a challenge as Financial Market Commission on how this similar problem and concern, we will have to make appropriate regulation for this industry, and we are working for that.
Okay, thank you, Jose Antonio. Maybe I can answer one last question because we're like due on time. But someone asked about the immigration policies for foreign people that want to develop technology here in Chile. I will refer broadly to the Startup Chile program. That's a program from the government through Corfo agency. And well, if you have any questions regarding this, I will write my email on the chat box. You can send me an email and I will explain in detail. But if you see the Startup Chile programs, they have a lot of benefits for foreigners that want to come to Chile to establish a company or to develop technology. And they give you the working visa, they help you to open a bank account. In Chile, we have like a problem for foreigners, even though it's not a legal issue, but more a risk policy issue of the banks. They usually don't open bank accounts to foreign unless they have been living in Chile for over 5 years. So with the Startup Chile, they also help you with that, opening a bank account, and we can explore that. But if you look in Google, like Corfo, Startup Chile, you will see all the benefits you have for even Chileans or foreign that want to establish here in Chile. And I don't know, man, because of time, I will write in here in the chat my email, or I don't know if you can send it afterwards, but if you have further questions, you can write me, no problem. And I will try to answer any questions that may be left for my side, at least.
Oh yeah, okay, guys, we're slightly over time now, so I suppose all that's left to say is thank you very much to everyone for joining this webinar, and thank you also to our fantastic speakers. So we'll see you all again next time, but in the meantime, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year from all of us at Legal 500, and see you on the next one. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.